In this video, we are going to get up and running with llama-C++, and we're going to take a look at llama-server, which is a part of that project. The first thing we're going to do is install CMake. I happen to be running on a Mac, so I'm going to use Homebrew. And just to show you, my current directory is users, my name, and DevTools. I am going to run that guy from here. I've already got it installed, so it's just going to come back and say it's there. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to clone the llama-C++ repository. So git clone and that URL. Cool. So that's installed. We're going to cd into that guy. And now we're going to use our CMake. And just taking a look at this command here really quick. This first step is like put together an instruction sheet of how we want to put this together. And the flags I've got here is dbuild shared libs off, which means I don't want any external pieces. If we're putting together a bunch of Legos, just glue them together. I don't want any extra pieces that we have to depend on elsewhere. CUDA off is I'm running on a Mac, so I don't have like an NVIDIA video card to run this on. So I'm saying don't bother building for the NVIDIA CUDA environment. And metal on, I don't think I actually need that. I think it'll detect it, but that means I'm building this for Apple Silicon. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. Cool, so that's done. Now our build is ready to be built. So I've got this next command, which is go get all the pieces. We're going to do a release build as opposed to a debug. So if we were developing it or contributing to the software and we wanted to run a local version that kind of fires up a bit quicker, we could do a debug release, or sorry, a debug version. But in this case, we want the full release, like the final binary. J means use multiple processors if they're available. Clean first is get rid of any artifacts from a previous build we might have done. And then these are the items that we're actually building out. So we've got the llama CLI, works a lot like, the llama CLI. I can pass in which model to use and give it a question. The MTMD CLI is the multimodal CLI, so that one can interact with images, files, things of that nature. We've got the llama-server, so if you used ollama, this is basically the same thing. And then this gguf split, I don't know a ton about it, but it will try to split up a really large model into more manageable chunks. So I'm going to copy this guy and run it. Okay, so all of our llama C++ tools are ready to be used. They are off in that build bin directory. So this command is just going to bring them up to the root of that directory. Okay, we are going to back out of this. Now we're going to install the Huggingface CLI. Now I already have it installed, so I'm just going to run it. And I think it'll just reinstall it. But if you're not familiar with Huggingface, it is an awesome website with thousands and thousands of open source, ready to be used LLMs that you can just download. And that's more or less what this tool does. It downloads them from the Huggingface repositories. All right, that's installed. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to download a model. Now I do have this model downloaded already because it's a pretty big one. So if I list out here, you can see I've got a folder here called models. And if I list out there, you can see I've got 2 in there. I'm at the moment, I'm partial to this 35B one, but the 9 billion one is actually really nice too. So I'm going to back out of this. I'm going to run that. I'm going to run that command, but it's really just going to come back and say I already have it. But all I'm doing is I'm saying go get this model and save it here. So it's saying I've already got it. Okay, now we're ready to run our llama server. I'm going to do that from this llama.cpp directory. I'm telling it which model to use. The alias is really not that important, and this should actually be 35B. Temperature. So temperature is, so if you imagine, our LLM is a really smart parrot and we want it to guess the next word. We're going to give it something and it's going to predict the next word. Temperature is how creative does it feel. Top K is a filter on when it looks at its entire vocabulary. It's saying, don't get too crazy. Find the 20 most likely. I think the default is actually 40, but I'm saying 20 here. Then we get top B, which is top probability. So I only want you to choose from the guesses that make up the best 95% of the available guesses. And then min p is sort of the opposite of that. I'm saying mine's set to 0, which means throw away anything that's less than 1% probability. Port is pretty straightforward. That's what port our server is going to be running at. KV unified. All these guesses that our really smart guy is working with, it saves them in a key value pair. This says just put those together. It's just an optimization for if you have lower memory. And then we have a cache type for the K key and the value V. I think the word is quantization. I'm using Q8. There is Q4, which is going to be a lot more compression. Q8 is going to be in the middle. On the high end, you have this thing called BF16. BF16 requires a lot of memory. I don't have that much memory. I'm not hurting, but I'm at 36 gigabytes. So Q8 seems to be a sweet spot. Like compress all this stuff, but not so much that things start to get fuzzy. Flash attention on. This one's kind of new to me, but apparently it means like go turbo, go as hard as you can. I don't know what the optimization is there. It's some magic, so I'm not going to bother to explain it. Certainly something you could look up. And then fit on is try to fit all of this in my memory. Try to squeeze it as much as possible into the memory that I have available. So we are going to go ahead and run that guy. Oop, what did I... So there is a sneaky tab character right there. So I'm just going to grab this, run it one more time. And there we go. We have a URL. I'm going to go ahead and open that. And we can see here we have our guy. Now I'm going to run, give me 3 writing prompts. It's not necessarily something this guy's very good at, but you can see that we have a UI here that looks, like ChatGPT or very much like llama. I'm getting 27-ish tokens per second, which if I wasn't recording the video and on my Mac is very busy right now, I would imagine that'd be more in the 35 to 40 range. But we get a nice little UI here that's connected to our model, and we will eventually get our response. We can also open up this reasoning right here and see all of its thinking. So it is doing a bunch of stuff in here, and it'll come back with that eventually. There we go. Here's our response. Here's all of our reasoning. And the great thing is, if you have code that is running against llama, you can literally just swap out that URL and leave, whatever lame API key you have in place and just start using this.